everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rooster Stone Show. Hey, man. I got my good pal Dave Pedrick here. We're going to talk to you today about one of our, I guess, foundational shows, the B-side favorites. We're doing it again. And in fact, Dave chose actual B-sides, which is really cool. I'll let him tell you about that. But we're going to take an album, a famous album or a project that a band did. And, it's got a lot of great songs on it. And here may be a song you're not as familiar with or is not quite as popular that we want to kind of focus on today. Yep. So, sound good?
Sounds great.
Let's roll with it, Dave. Give us your first song. What do you got?
My first song is Sly and the Family Stone, Sing a Simple Song. Maybe even more known for some people that got covered a lot later. Diana Ross, some other Motown acts did it. The B-side to Everyday People. So that was a pretty big hit.
Yeah. Their biggest hit, I think, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
And it's the beauty of the B-side. It's 1968 into 69. They're just doing something different, completely different. It's got this crazy opening. And then it comes in, it's simple. It's almost like a Grand Ole Opry style with four vocalists in turn walking up to the mic, singing some stuff. Killer breakdown in the middle with the horns and the guitar part, which I think the Meters were listening to because Sissy Strut a little bit later sounds a lot like it.
Yeah.
You can just hear a lot of influential stuff going on in the track, and it's just fun. It makes you smile.
Yeah.
It's just one of those tunes.
Dude, this is, and I had forgotten about this tune, but it's got all those layers.
Yeah.
And, this time and this sound and this band, the horns, that bass guitar, that sort of like community call out. It's like you're in rock and roll church.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And down to the drum kit, it sounds like a gospel mic. Like there's no frills. It sounds like some overheads.
Yeah.
It's not a sort of kick drum in your face. It just sounds like you're an observer, listener in that room.
Yeah.
Very cool track.
Let's not dress it up. And remember, this is, the Beatles were still at this time sort of experimenting with all these things that are commonplace today with a lot of bands.
Yep.
But back then it was just like, this is what we sound like when we play, in the dance hall.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is such a great song, an excellent choice too, and a really cool B-side. So for my first song today, I chose the artist and album Led Zeppelin from their Led Zeppelin 2 album in 1969. All right, this was their follow-up to that sort of like mega hit number one, that had all those songs on it. But this one had just as many good songs on it, man. Whole Lot of Love, Thank You, which is like the wedding song, Ramble On, Livin' Lovin' Maid. I mean, some of their most iconic classic tunes. But I chose the song What Is and What Should Never Be. For a band that started out doing sort of heavy electric versions of Mississippi Delta blues, this song, the second track on their second album, which I also think is kind of cool, is a departure from that sort of early formula that they had. This song is full of contrasting sections of melody and texture. The verses are just so like chill and kind of bluesy, jazzy. And they're largely driven by that, bass guitar.
He's driving it.
John Paul Jones is just kind of doing his thing there. And then the chorus just explodes with Plant's voice and that crunchy guitar. Make no mistake, this song heralds a much broader sound for this then budding band. They will go on to conquer the world, and this song will end up buried under a mountain of other classic tunes. But it's still one of my absolute favorites from this group, especially that ending with the panned guitars and Plant turning it up. I mean, that just gets me in the feels, man.
Yeah.
I love this tune.
I saw the documentary which is semi-recently out, maybe would be a month ago, several weeks ago, The Becoming Led Zeppelin. And this has always been one of my favorite songs. And I have two words for the genius of this song, John Bonham.
Dude.
When the snare comes in, it's just...
I know.
And it's wow. And it just... Yeah, and then you're right. Then Jonesy takes over, and it's just all the elements come together, and you can hear all the tweaking, and then that extreme panning at the end.
Oh, man.
And the crazy, natural effect on that sort of phased out vocal, which you always want to be a little bit louder.
Oh, I know. But it's perfect that it's not.
That's why it's not, because there's a huge dynamic arc to that. So I love one of my favorite Zeppelin songs.
And you're so right with that snare. It's like whoever was miking John Bonham's snare it didn't make him a legend, but helped him become one.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
man, no snare sounds that good.
Yeah.
Not back then.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Excellent. So what do you
Great.
got for number two?
Right. We got.
There's more.
There's more indeed. Again, back to the B-sides.
This is a good one.
But what a classic album. I went with Prince and the Revolution. Got to make sure it's the Revolution. 17 Days, which for folks of a certain age will remember that the only way you could hear this song was buying the single, When Doves Cry, which was the lead single. For Purple Rain, which is there a song on that album that wasn't a hit? There are probably a couple, maybe,
or couldn't have been. Anyway.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
The whole album is every song.
But that song, I mean, it's Prince about to be a star. He's back to the Zeppelin thing that they're kind of on the mantelpiece now. Just that it's got a killer intro. This is about the lyrics too. This is definitely 1984. Just talking about, all I got is 2 cigarettes in this broken heart of mine. He's just speaking right to that demographic.
Yeah.
It's not as layered as the other ones. It's just got that sort of single, easy, simple bass line. So the vocal is right up front. You have to listen to the words, and it's gospel-y in a way. It's almost jazzy in a way. And to me, it's the ultimate 80s B-side. And no one else could pull it off but him.
He demands attention. I mean, no matter what he's doing, if he's playing guitar, if he's singing, if he's just writing the song for another band. Yeah. And, I loved that this was an actual B-side too. Because, I remember this song from that too. Prince is a god of the ancient world. Let's just put it out there, man. I mean,
you just did.
Seriously, that's what he is. He's like, you got Anubis right here, Osiris right here, and you got Prince in the middle with a statue, at Karnak. To be honest, it's hard to believe that this didn't make the album.
Yeah, and I should have done a little more digging about it, but it was definitely a B-side time, and this would have been someone new. Like A&R got everything right with Prince. They didn't always in the 80s get it right, like where the hit was. Like I don't know if I would have picked When Doves Cry as the A-side. As the leading single from that album.
It's
hard to go back.
It's that vocal melody.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I guess that when you're Prince, even the cutting room floor is filled with classics.
Yeah,
dude, but this is such a great tune. It really is. Yeah. And if you like Prince and you haven't heard this one before, I'm sure if you're really into Prince, you've heard it on, because he's got it on compilations.
It comes out maybe in the 90s later before it got onto another sort of full album. But
and remember, you can always just check it out on the Spotify list I post anyway, because it'll be on there. But it is such a great tune. Excellent choice.
Thank you.
So for my second tune, I'm going to be in the 80s too.
All right.
I chose Duran Duran's sort of like, follow up to Rio, but equally, maybe even from a hit standpoint, even larger album. Seven and the Ragged Tiger, 1983. Yeah. They were on Friday Night Video Fights for weeks on end with the Reflex and New Moon on Monday, Union of the Snake. I mean, this album is chock full of some of the biggest hits, of the entire decade. So this song is the last song. The song that I chose is called Of Crime and Passion.
Yeah. It
is the last song on side A of one of the greatest albums of the 1980s decade.
That's bold.
Yeah. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
It's bold, but I'm going to put it out there. I'm a fan of this band, particularly at this time. It's surrounded by all these great songs, but I can still remember this song. I remember dancing and singing to this record, playing on my little suitcase turntable. My big sister loved this band. Yeah. She shaped so much of my early musical taste because she's 3 years older than me. But she had a good ear. Yeah. And she liked a wide variety of different artists. So this one comes with a healthy, sort of dose of nostalgia. It features John Taylor on bass, who, per usual,
he drove the band.
Dude, just holds it together. But Simon's on fire in this song, too. His voice is so wild and yet controlled. But like almost all Duran Duran songs, this song is layered and makes a lot of changes. It's almost like the moment on the album, too, where the bright poppy sound of side A starts to take a darker turn.
Yeah, and the tunes get longer, too, on side B.
Yeah. Both musically and lyrically, it just starts to sort of like take a darker turn, which it's really them taking a darker turn as a band from that point on. And it, because Rio was very poppy and very bright, but this album takes that turn. It's a true blue B-side for me, just because so few people even know, even Duran Duran fans probably don't know this.
They're at the end of side A.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a Duran Duran fan, and it's funny because I would wonder how much a fan people would be if their sister wasn't a fan in 1983, because that's informing what we're listening to.
Yeah.
What I respected about it, the years in the 90s, when the early 90s stuff came out, I became a fan of Duran Duran, and I went back and revisited.
Sure.
It's the keyboards, it's Nick Rhodes. So, and the DX7, because this is about technology, the 80s, and we're about to hear the Yamaha DX7 for several years on every track that was ever recorded, seemingly. And
it was very versatile.
This is the Roland. This is the Jupiter, that Jupiter 4 that was on Rio. And then I think maybe it's the 8 on this one, but he's creating atmosphere, almost like an Eno-esque vibe to it that sort of layers it. And which, again, can't be done, like you said, without that driving bass. So that was this thing that was left. But I got to give it to Rhodes on this one for coloring that album. Yeah. Plus, I think they were fighting a lot on this record, which always makes for good art.
They were. This is where the breakup happened, too. Yeah. Two of the band members left.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy and Roger left after this project, I think. I don't think they were on Notorious.
I mean, things were getting
They're certainly not on the album cover, which is telling.
And they're also recording it all over the world, big budgets and stuff at that point. So you're not in a sort of one space. So it's a lot of
I think that takes it hard. Yeah. I've always kind of put Duran Duran, again, so much of this might be nostalgia, but I always say, there are two boy bands that overcame that to become sort of real deal bands, the Beatles and Duran Duran. I mean, that's just how I look at it. But, again, that could be a lot of nostalgia working for me too.
Well, history may judge you to be correct as well. We're not that far removed from it.
That's true. That's true. And they're still good. I mean, the stuff that they're releasing now is still really good stuff. I mean,
agree.
It's excellent work.
I agree.
All right, dude, we're at your last song already. I can't believe it.
I know. Yeah. Well, speaking of nostalgia, this is a little past my time, but I went with 1974, the Doobie Brothers, Black Water, which became an A-side later because this is like an A&R mistake. That's what I love about this track. Like Another Park, Another Sunday is the A-side, which if you're a really big Doobie Brothers fan, you're going to know the song.
Right.
Most people don't.
Right.
But that was the lead release, for this album. What Were Once Vices Are Now Habits was the name of the album. So it says a lot.
Yeah.
But here's Black Water, and it's just that killer chorus. I mean, this car's full of people singing along. And I'm going to point to the musicianship on this one. You've got that great fiddle guitar going back and forth. So you're hitting that bluegrass audience. You're hitting that sort of crossover country thing going on. Unbelievable vocal on this track. Like, it's really good. But you can't wait. You're digging the interplay between the guitar and the fiddle, but you can't wait to start singing again. I can't wait till that chorus comes around again. And then it fades out, and then it's just the vocals. And, it reeks in all the good ways of 1974. Like, it's really of its time. And it's just one of those tunes. I'm not going to turn it off when it comes on.
Yeah. Well, dude, the 1970s, it's just like you said, the 1970s were this sort of moment where, like, populist Americana started kind of making its comeback after sort of the psychedelia of the late 60s.
A reaction to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening now, too. It's sort of like country's popular again or whatever. So music goes through these cycles. But this is such a great song, and it does. It brings back so many memories.
It was everywhere, all through.
Yeah, dude. I mean, even in the 80s, it was a very common track to hear on the radio. Yeah, that melody is just so sweet. And you're right, dude. The fiddle and the guitar, I mean, and those guitars are mic'd beautifully for the time period. I mean, whatever they were using,
all their stuff sounded good. If you're into that way to mix, where to put the mid range.
Oh my God!
If you've got the right speakers, it's like going to heaven.
Well, they kind of did that, that mid range cut.
Yep.
So you can hear all the sort of low stuff. I mean, look, we're geeking out over this sonic crap here, But hey, maybe you geek out about it too. This is such a great song. From even if you don't know anything about that stuff, your ear knows.
Yeah,
your ear can hear.
It's good, and you get to play along. That's the mark of a great chorus.
Yeah. And just such a well produced album. It's such a great choice. I think that's so interesting too about it being of the B side. That is just so funny. It's like one of their most popular songs.
Well, and it was radio in the day, so radio knew.
Yeah.
This isn't the one we're going to play. We're going to play the B side, which happens, of course. It used to happen back in the day, and
they can make those decisions back then. In a way they can't now.
Agreed.
So we get to our last song for me. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So I'm going to roll with Coldplay. How about that? You didn't expect that, did you? Their first album, Parachutes 2000, huge hits. Yellow, obviously, is still getting airplay.
Oh, yeah.
Trouble, that beautiful, haunting piano lick. Shiver, a little bit more energy to it. These are, the songs that got major radio play.
Big time.
But I'm going to choose the last song on their debut album. It's Coldplay was one of the biggest acts of the early millennia. I still think they do fairly well. But musically, it's got that sort of classic Coldplay chord structure. A little bluesy, a little jazzy. But this song has a deeply personal meaning for me and is a classic example, of music being a friend. I didn't catch on to these guys until sometime in like mid-2001. I was over at a friend's house and Trouble came on the video, and I didn't have cable for years at this point. And I'm listening to this video. I'm like, wow, I didn't know anyone was making music like this.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wait, these are the Yellow guys? And so I was kind of like, okay. And I went out and bought the album the next day. And it was shortly after all of that my best friend in the whole wide world passed on to the next life. We were close as brothers, and it broke me in a way that's hard to explain to people. But one night, in the middle of being in the deepest, darkest hole I've ever been in my life, this song came on and finished the job. I mean, I broke down. It still gives me shivers to think about it, but it helped to heal me. This song was a healing force for me with what happened. It was almost like his voice was singing to me from beyond the grave, telling me to move on. Be happy. The message of this song is very simple. You can carry on. You are strong. Everything's not lost. I still get shivers when I listen to this tune, and it has a deeply personal meaning for me. But to me, this is the best song on that album because I have an emotional connection to it.
Right.
And so there it is.
Yeah, I was never a huge Coldplay fan because I only heard
The hits.
and I didn't really dig it. This tune's an exception, and it's because of the little unexpected chords. You're not expecting it, which forces an interesting melody that keeps you going.
Yeah.
And I will say it is interesting about this band that on more than one occasion, on someone's deathbed, Coldplay was playing around this time. It was just a fascinating phenomenon that can't really be ignored. That music really really touched people, and I get it. When I listen back to it now, it was 25 years ago.
Yeah,
I get it. But I'm more of a fan of the deep cuts from that band.
I am too.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of songs that they released. I never listened to the radio that much, so I didn't get sort of the poison of overplay. Right. But I can say Coldplay is an example, another fine example of 100 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. I mean, it is. There is something about his voice, something about the construction of their sound that I think it connects with people. And, I will admit it because I'm usually a purist about stuff like this.
Yeah, you are.
Yes. Which I'm sure is what surprised you about seeing this song.
I was a little surprised.
Yeah, but I'm okay putting it out there. I love this song. It's got a connection to me. And, maybe you'll listen to it and it can, connect to you as well.
That's the right reason.
Yeah.
That's the right reason to pick it.
So there it is. Dude, 6 songs. These are the ones we picked. B-side favorites, songs a little deeper down. You got to dig for a little bit to find. So we'll post the playlist on Spotify and I'll put it up on Facebook or whatever. And you can come check it out. Comment. Tell us your B-side favorites. What songs do you think are hidden on sort of great projects by bands, any band? We'd love to hear what you got going on. But as always, thanks so much for listening if you made it this far. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the band across all social media sort of sites and stuff like that. And don't forget to be good people. And don't forget about peace and one love. Come on over to roosterstone.com where you can book the band for any event you can imagine. Acoustic, full band, whatever your event may require. You can also email us to take online music lessons at an affordable monthly price. Don't forget to download our original music and like, follow, and subscribe to Rooster Stone across all social media platforms. Keep rocking out at roosterstone.com.